Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 49 of Tactical Crouch, one shy of 50. Can you believe it? We've been doing this essentially for a year's worth of podcast episodes. Thanks for being here. I'm KickedTripod, joined of course by Yiska and Volamel. Here to talk about some competitive Overwatch League. We are done with the regular season. We're in playoff territory now, Joe.
Yeah, it has been a crazy ride. Talking a little bit before the show. Need to tune in to the pre-show. We get a little spicy, a little great place to ask questions and get them in to the show. So come please join us live. Join us for the pre-show. But yeah, season 2. It's crazy to think about that. We've gone from kind of this post-apocalyptic world of like nothingness, the pre-Overwatch League era, like kind of post-Apex, post-APAC, and like just nothing going on and people are dropping like flies. And now we're actually progressing through the Overwatch League. Think of it what you will, but it's pretty surreal.
I already internally went like, be positive at the start of the show. Don't jump on this.
I mean, you can, like there are positive aspects and there are worrisome aspects as well. But we're here. It's progressing. There's no end in sight. So it's I think a net positive thing. There are things I wish were a little bit different, but I think overall it's good, right?
Here's a legitimate thing that I feel is like, for me personally, it's very easy to already be scared of the off season, and then I soothe myself kind of with the we still have the gauntlet. Then we got World Cup a month later, and then but at the same time, like because of the off season and what it means, just like as a stretch of limited content. It's very easy for me to have that ruin the rest of the season, which I don't want to do, right? I want to enjoy it as much as there is enjoyment to be gained from. And like having that fear of loss is probably not a good thing to entertain at the moment.
I don't know. I personally wouldn't mind just like 1 month of like no competitive Overwatch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the mid-season, right?
I think it's a little bit different when you're like creating content for it every week, and so it means that you're just kind of like oversteeped in it. Like as a like viewer, sure, 100%. But as someone who has to like watch all the games and write the episodes, and it's just it's a little much, and to like do a full-time job outside of that.
Yeah, it's a lot.
The thing is, dude, honestly, even for content creators, this allows you to be way more creative with your topic selections and the angles you hit, because there's not as many pressing topics that seem like obvious, right? So I personally enjoyed the mid-season a lot.
That's another really good point. There's so many topics that we have to push because we want to discuss them. But completely transparently, if you're not discussing what's going on in Overwatch and competitive Overwatch, like, sorry, you lose views. And it's not that like it's all about the views. For some people it absolutely is, and like from like a lifestyle perspective, like they rely on that money to do it, and that kind of sucks. But it's also just like there's that selfishness that you want to make content that people want to watch. So
for sure,
whatever. Either way, we've got a lot of like great postseason content lined up. We've been kind of stacking up a lot of questions and topic ideas that were appropriate for right now. But as we get into post Overwatch League playoffs, there's definitely going to be a ton of time. And I think even then, like our pre-season 2 Overwatch League or episodes, I think were really fun too, where we went through the power
100%.
rankings and we went through all those. I thought that those were really fun and really great. Before we get started though, we do have a few like housekeeping things and announcements. First and foremost, we do have our patron game night Saturday at 4 p.m. Pacific time. So if you want to play games, you want to be a part, we had a blast last time playing custom Overwatch games. Yes. Tactical Crouch was still my favorite game type that we played, which was, so essentially how it works is you have You have Anna and Widowmaker,
Anna,
right?
Widow, and May.
And May.
Yes.
And essentially, if you hit them with your shots, and you can only use like the scoped long range shot type things. It knocks them out, and then you have to tactically crouch them down to 0 health. And it's the most apt description of this podcast as I could come up with in a game type. So, yeah, that's amazing. So 4 p.m. Saturday, we'll also be streaming it at twitch.tv/KickedTripod, but that also brings up the other part is if you want to support the show, you like the show, we bring you 75 minutes to 2 hours worth of free content every week, and you're like, you know what? I appreciate that. I want to be closer to the hosts and the people who listen and get involved. There's 2 different ways to get involved and do that. First is to subscribe on Twitch. You can subscribe twitch.tv/KickedTripod. You get access to some cool emotes, and then you also get the Croucher, the Croucher role in the Discord. There's also Patreon itself, where you can go sign up. There's different tiers with different rewards. It's pretty cool. People have really liked the Patreon rewards and stuff that we've got going right now. So I think we're coming up. So after we hit our next goal, the one after that is going to be adding an additional episode each month. So we're pretty close to that. So yeah, go check it out. Patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. Whew. All right, let's talk about some news this week. Of course, brought to you by our patron producers, Battle Crab, Made, and Peter Y. I saw Made's response to your tweet this week, Yiska, where he put your face on the panda. You know?
Amazing. I already called him out a little bit for it, because in Korea, for instance, you have the option on Twitter to mute certain reply tweets. Now, I would have loved to have that for that tweet. Like, come on, man. I'm just trying to get a new job here, and he's posting panda pictures of me. I'm professional.
So professional. Yep, there it is. Yeah. So big thanks again to our patron producers. This is a fun one. I was really excited to see this. I brought it up last week, and Eric P2,
the saint that he is.
Yes, exactly. He combined a bunch of the preseason power rankings to from different content creators, and we were a part of that, and then created a mid-season review where we had done quite well overall. And then we're at the kind of the postseason review now, and he posted the last one. And we've got the final grades are in. First of all, Volamel coming in at number 2. The Oracle of Overwatch right there. Yiska coming in at 11th. I come in at 16th. And then Reinforced down at 28th. Your Overwatch at 29th. Nerf This at 30th. And esports.net at 31st. So we did pretty good. All upper top half. So, hey, not bad. I got the Fusion and the Spark were the most wrong. I way overvalued Fusion and way undervalued Spark, which I actually think... well, actually, no, Yiska got Hunters wrong. 8.
The thing is, I don't know how many people actually had entire season predictions and how often just this first stage was valued, because while it seems like an advantage if ours is valued towards the entire season and they just focus on stage 1, they don't then have to consider all the factors that we ended up considering. And I would say much more so than the actual placements. I think we did a great job at figuring out what the important factors would be. Namely, things like division. We called out divisional differences very early. In fact, like every team that we justified was like, yeah, but they are in this division, you know? We talked about ability to rebuild and willingness to do so. We've talked about certainly investment of how much an orc is willing to put in. Yeah, and just factors like this, I think that is probably the bigger victory for all of us, that we
100%.
pointed out these important factors before the season started.
The one thing that I will say that I think inadvertently we properly weighted in all of our power rankings, but something that I thought was a big talking point through those discussions and then those episodes was how much of a factor is going to be past experience within the Overwatch League.
Yes.
And I don't know that we actually got a proper answer to that. I think we definitely got to see how strong some of the talent is, or talent was outside of the Overwatch League coming into season 2. But I think that question is going to be constantly asked until we get a full normal realized schedule for the rest of the Overwatch League's life cycle. Like going into next season, I think that question has to be asked again. Like how important is being within the Overwatch League, going to homestands, having that taste of travel going into 2020, knowing that you're going to have to travel week on week. I think that's going to be something that we're going to have to ask the question again. So I think overall we did a pretty bang up job. Well done, boys.
Yeah. I think we were solid. Arc came in at number 1. He beat you. 0.8.
I mean, to be fair, he crushed too. He did very well.
The thing is, what I found hilarious was how hard Dogman, like how wrong he was on the Spark, like by 15 places. That's ridiculous. That is, he undervalued Spark harder than he overvalues his teammates, especially the US ones.
Yeah, I actually didn't look at that. Also, Yiska, I appreciate your intentional memeage on your total places off. That was your plan all around. Total places off, 69.
69, yes.
So
nice.
He planned to be at 11th just for that correlation value. So yeah, there you go. Eric, thanks again for putting that together. And I think overall making us look pretty good. So feel pretty good.
I'd say so.
I feel pretty good about that. You're listening to a smart podcast when we're all in the top half while all simultaneously having to disagree with each other.
Yeah.
It's like that was a big part of it too. Even when we planned it, it was just like we don't want to have a ton of spots the same. Like inevitably there's going to be some. The only spot that we actually ended up agreeing at was Fuel at 9.
I was shocked when I was hoping that we would find some that were just yep, they go here. This is where they sit in comparison. And we didn't really have that many. So I was actually pretty surprised. I think generally we were okay, these teams go around here. There was a kind of class system that I think we all kind of had generally similar teams within. I kind of would like to see what our average kind of the show, if you want to call it that, what the show thought, taking an average of all 3 of our power rankings and then seeing where we placed on correlation. That would be kind of interesting.
Thanks, Eric. Love you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, apparently I just triggered Siri in the other room. All right. Sounds good. Going well. Yeah, so there it is. We will make sure to just go search for, it's called Preseason Power Rankings Final Grades on the Competitive Overwatch subreddit. I think we've shared it in Crouchers already. If we haven't, we will. But yeah, so that's the first big. We got that out of the way. We can stop gloating for a second. And we can talk about the Team USA roster announcement. So Team USA essentially, all the teams, they were able to choose how many total members? It was 12, right? But they had a final roster, a traveling roster of 7.
Yes.
And so we got that final traveling roster of 7. Here we go. Team USA, DPS, KSF, Sinatra, and Corey. Tanks, Space, and Super. Supports, Moth, and Raucous. So those are the final 7. Let's talk a little bit about this Team USA roster, though. And Joe, I know you're pretty passionate about this one. how do you want to take this down? Do you want to go roll by roll?
Yeah, we can do like DPS, support, tank, and kind of discuss them
Let's
chunk
talk
by
about
chunk.
the DPS first, then.
I think the most controversial, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The other two kind of make sense to me. I remember a couple shows ago, we were like, how does Sinatraa fit within this team? I think that would be the one person that I kind of have to admit, not that I want to, but just the way that things are going or were going at the time. Obviously, we have a little bit more, have some more hints on where the meta may be shifting within a couple months. But yeah, kind of surprising to see Sinatraa. KSF, Dante were, kind of a toss-up. Corey was kind of a given. I'm interested to see what they want to do with Sinatraa, to be fair. I think ideally I kind of wanted to see them go with hydration, just because I do worry about how Super plays on some of his other tank picks, namely the Orisa and the Wrecking Ball. And I did like the fact that the Gladiators were kind of rotating hydration onto the Wrecking Ball in some instances, which I think USA could have used to their advantage at the time. Now I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case or be all that strong, but yeah, interesting to see Sinatraa there. Yiska, what you think?
I think so. For one, if you think about that roster, right, and I don't want to go too far ahead, but Space was already the set in stone only off tank in the final 12. So it is, for one, we don't know what the meta will be like. And if Zarya, for some miraculous reason, comes back, even though she gets nerfed while she's not even good, I think then you, for instance, put Sinatraa in. I think there's also something to be said about maybe not just having the best roster in mind, but also just like, can you avoid a season MVP and whatnot? And also, who are the alternatives? Because the people that stayed at home were Dante and Hydration, right, from the final track. Now, Hydration, I don't think he was really in the running. Is probably the weakest of the DPS there. Dante, personally, was very surprising. To me, he was one of the only shining things in this Outlaws roster. I agree with people that mostly said that they should be building the roster around, and crucially, he's also pretty flexible. So if you, especially now needing the flexibility, it was interesting to see that people might think, okay, they went with KSF instead. You could have even gotten KSF and Dante and just be, there's definitely overlap in their champion pools, but at the same time, there is with Sinatraa, right? So the thing is, their DPS has no perfect combination where the pieces just completely fit perfectly together and cover all the champion pools. So as such, I think Sinatraa is an interesting pick. Possibly also just like, can you even not nominate Sinatraa? Is that, season MVP type of thing? And also, I don't know what the Shock will be doing for the next couple of matches, but it would be interesting if they incorporate him more, or if they're just going to keep running Architect and Rascal and his season is over, which would be kind of sad. But if not, if he actually has a niche, then maybe he extends his hero pool through the excellent coaching of Shock, and therefore it makes sense.
I will say that I think that with his limited playtime within stage 4, I believe, he has still been able to look really, really good on kind of niche picks like Doomfist. And you have to give it up to kind of the Shock management there, finding a way to kind of still integrate him and, have him succeed. There's no wonder why they're doing so well when you have tools like that, but you also have the brains behind the scenes to be able to find ways to utilize those really strong pieces. So again, hats off to the coach is there. Yeah, we'll have to see. Sinatra, maybe I'm underrating him a little bit. So I'm kind of intrigued to see how USA does these days.
I think Tank, Space, and Super.
Yeah, that's kind of
that's great.
I don't know how else. Who else would you have put in?
Yeah.
So here's my thing. I think there was a possibility that you got a seven-man roster, right?
Okay, so you're going like double or triple tank with the sub as the tank.
Double main tank, maybe. But of course there are considerations in terms of shot calling, how vocal is Muma in comparison to Super. Also, how much will Super adapt to the new meta requirements of him. So I'm not saying that should have happened, even though I think I remember defending that position once. I'm not that sure that is still a good idea, especially with the way Sinatra's hero pool is now sort of phasing out. But it's not a thing that shouldn't be discussed. I think there's still an idea to go with two main tanks.
I like you said, like you kind of hinted at, I wonder how much of a leadership role Super has kind of filled in, adopted, whatever you want to kind of call it, within the Shock, and how that correlates to the USA's World Cup performance. Are they kind of leaning on him and Moth to kind of be the vocal members on that roster? If you take away one of those members, how does the team play? That's kind of a big shift change, like mid-match. Is that something that the players are going to be able to deal with? Do you just kind of take that on the chin and just say, well, okay, he might not be the best at these heroes, but he's fantastic for the team environment? It makes sense to me. It definitely makes a lot of sense. And Space is just fantastic, and they've kind of covered any kind of hero pool mishaps that may have happened. Yeah, like the roster to me makes sense.
So last one would be Moth and Raucus, though, right? So This is the one I think that has drawn a little bit of controversy, not just from fans, but from players themselves. So this last week, Dogman, oh man, I wish we had him on the show this week. Dogman, after their, it was kind of the post-match interview against Dallas Fuel, threw a little shade, and I loved it. And essentially said, like, what do you want to say? He goes, I think he said there's 5 of us on this team that are all from the United States. Arrow is the coach for Team USA, and we just beat them. So essentially implying that they should have been chosen for Team USA. I can feel Yiska's brain like oozing out of his ears a little bit at some of like the logical stuff around the fact that just because you have American players on your team and win doesn't necessarily mean you're the best American players. But he doubled down, apparently, according to Goopy Noopy, doubled down in the post-match press conference as well, using the terminology used in Connor's tweet, was calling him incompetent in both his coaching of Team USA and the Dallas Fuel.
That, and he also threw shade at the other 2 coaches, at Junkbuck and Harsha, saying that the entire coaching is incompetent. Yes.
So
interesting.
Here we are. We've got Moth and Raucus. To be fair, no Dallas Fuel players on Team USA. Moth and Raucus, there's definitely, I think we were talking a little bit before the show, Dogman probably has one of the stronger arguments for who else do you put in probably over Raucus, right? Like, I don't think anyone's looking to replace Moth, are they?
Definitely.
No.
There's no chance.
Good. I'm not off base on that one. So I think that the big thing comes down to Raucus being one there. First of all, how can you have that Team USA? They say that Captain America is America's ass, but I beg to differ. it might be Raucous, but besides that, I don't know. Like personally, am I a bad person for saying that I'm sick of us talking about Houston Outlaw players as being viable World Cup players?
I definitely sympathize with that feeling, but I think it's fine. I definitely thought that Raucous was kind of the leading candidate here. I haven't really been all that high on Sleepy. I think there's a reason why he isn't playing right now. What that might be, I don't know. Is his Ana that strong? Raucous looks fantastic on Ana. Is his Zenyatta that strong? Not really. I think it's serviceable at best. But there again, how prominent have we really seen Zenyatta in this metagame? That all comes into question with the next patch. What supports are we playing then? Kind of hard to tell. I think Raucous has done a very good job on the heroes that the Houston Outlaws in the meta have kind of put him on, and I think he's kind of. I thought he was the leading candidate here. I didn't really see a world where Sleepy was getting in. Dogman has been kind of. I don't know. I guess I would have to pay a little bit more attention to his last couple performances. I thought Raucous was kind of a shoo-in here.
Is there a reason? Because a lot of people immediately, instead of Raucous, went to Sleepy as.
I think it's a lot of confirmation bias with his Zen play, if I had to guess. He is a fantastic Zen. He was a fantastic Zen on Shock. He's been very, very good. Has been a boon for the Justice. But that doesn't seem like it's going to be all that needed. And I think you need to be a little bit more flexible at the flex support position these days.
I think, though, what I wanted to ask you about, though, is there are some people who cited Sleepy's not mechanical skill, but more his ability to work together well in a team environment. We've definitely seen some drama going on Twitter from people about, again, Overwatch World Cup just isn't about putting the best people on a roster. We've definitely learned that the personality clashes can be a bigger downfall of your team rather than necessarily raw skill. Any thoughts? Any thoughts on that? Either regarding the Sleepy perspective or just generally, or do you think that that's just kind of Twitter and Reddit doing what they do best?
So I think the Raucous Sleepy argument can be entertained. One thing that we also have to factor in is that Moth and Sleepy did play together, and there is some synergy that is valuable, I suppose, in the backline. But I think it also has something to do with what kind of direction you think the meta is going. And if you think that it's going to be more Ana-based, then I think Raucous is a fine idea. So for me, Raucous over Sleepy, it could have gone either way. I don't think it makes too terribly big of a difference from a player perspective. Now, Dogman, especially with his comments that none of these US players should be, or that more US players should be there, the entire argument is so badly discussed, it's actually ridiculous. So let's first set the scene, right? When is this selection made? So the first selection is made somewhere in stage 3. The Outlaws are 5-2, have beaten the Shock, right? Did they beat the Shock? They beat a great team. Either the Shock or the...
I'm pretty sure it was the Shock.
Yeah, it was a Shock. So they're 5-2. At the same time, Atlanta are 2-5, right? At the same time, and however much credence you want to give to these, I personally think they definitely line up with my eye test, is the player impact ratings. At this time, from stage 1 to stage 3, the top 4 Atlanta players are none of the American players. They are sitting in a backpack, getting carried by Pokpo, by Daco at this point. FRD is not even really in the conversation, only to slot in. And when he plays, understandably, first couple of matches on a big stage and whatnot, So the FRD thing makes no sense to me at the time when we're discussing. The Baby Babe thing, pretty much the same. Doesn't make any sense to me. Definitely not better than any of the DPS mentioned. Who else are the other American players on Atlanta? But in general, the best claim
So yeah,
had Dogman.
Baby Band,
Mhm.
basically Gator. I think is the only other one.
Gator is a
FRD,
joke,
Baby
dude.
Babe,
Like,
Dogman,
even
and
to bring that
Gator,
up.
who's a two-way player.
Yeah, he doesn't even play in an or regularly in the Overwatch League. And also, honestly, like, I don't want to go too far out, but I think he will get exposed on that new patch as well. So we will see how that works out. But I don't think any like he basically implies if he honestly thinks that Gator should start above Super. I think we can all understand that is not something that should be entertained. FRD should not be entertained. Baby Base should not at the time that we're making this decision. And Dogman admittedly had a bad tryout, and also, I mean, the way he is publicly also comes off this way behind the scenes quite often, right? So definitely, in terms of a gelling aspect, Dogman has the best claim, and we have reasons to see why that didn't end up in the final selection. I think he was out in first or second round of that entire process. So who is actually the person that is being elevated here to have been or to be required at that time that they're making that call? None. There should not be an Atlanta player on that roster.
So there is one other. Dogman did bring up the player Hawk, who is currently 17, turns 18 September 16th, which I believe is within the can't remember if he's underage or he is eligible, but that was a thing as well. He plays for Atlanta Academy currently as a flex tank.
Yeah, ahead of Super, ahead of Space. Okay. What are we even talking about here? That entire thing is a clown argument.
I'm just mediating, man.
No, I'm not talking against you. Yeah.
Reddit and Twitter need a mediator between us and you, them and you, and then I like to. But you're right. You're right. Like, I don't doubt that Hawk is a great player, but
is he better than?
Is he better than Space and Super?
That's tough.
No. Like, no, you don't get like so. But back to your thought though is Yiska, you said, well, maybe Team USA should run 3 tanks. Then is Hawk a consideration?
No, you need that slot in a Space is just set. I don't know what the issue is, especially if you want to bring Sinatra and fix that potential. I'm not even saying Space has a terrible Zarya, right? Probably has I mean, it really depends the type of medicine. We cannot even say if Sinatra could play the way a Zarya could potentially play, whatever that might look like. Whatever,
that was going to be my question: is could Sinatra hop on Zarya? Because
I think so.
Yeah. So like, there's a little bit of flexibility there too. I don't see a world where Hawk is better than like the tanks out of all 3 positions are the ones that make the most sense for Team USA. I don't think that the flexibility is lacking there to justify a 3rd tank player.
Also, real talk, I'd love to live in a universe where the shit talk like this isn't taken seriously and isn't jeopardizing any careers in the Overwatch League. Not in this universe. Every agent will tell you that public opinion absolutely does matter in terms of types of contracts you are able to sign, even the types of jobs you get. We even had situations this year where a thing didn't come to be because of the public feedback that was given due to the roster move leaking. So, come on. Like, if you got a shit talk, at least make it something reasonable in that sense. And to say that both Harsha and Junkbuck are not competent, dude, nothing would run at at Vancouver if it wasn't for Harsha. And I'm not sure what Junkbuck is doing, but come on, they are coaches of some of the top teams that you cannot hold a candle to for the vast majority of the season. So, come on.
You good? Everyone good? So is this a team, this the final 7, is this a team we're in the same group as South Korea again? I say we, including Yiska, because apparently he's American.
He wants to stay as far away from this country as possible, let me tell you.
So is this a team that can go up against South Korea in group stages? It's the big one, right?
It honestly depends. We're going to kind of have to see. Just on merit alone, I don't think so. But I think it really depends. To give a better answer, I think it honestly depends on what the meta looks like, what the patch is. How does this roster play that patch in terms of just hero pools? They seem to have their bases covered, but we can't really measure them up when we don't know the rest of the groups. And obviously South Korea has some of the best talent in the world, so that's a tough ask. That's difficult.
I need you to tell me right now if we're gonna get a gold medalist here.
No, you're not. USA will not win gold.
Boom, there it is. Yiska, you feel the same way?
I mean, betting against South Korea is a losing bet.
Monty,
Even China
Monty would be proud. It's all that time on oversight, I think. It's got you brainwashed there. Just kidding.
I mean, look at the top of the league.
No, you're right.
There's like three good Western dudes right now, right? Mm-hmm. And some of them aren't even playing.
It's true. I mean, the other half of the Team USA conversation starts with the Houston Outlaws player. So that should tell you about how far it goes. Sorry, Outlaws fans. I don't know anymore. Who knows? Who knows how the fans are feeling?
I think they've got plenty of fans.
It's been a rough year for just Texas teams in general. So,
let's say this for Outlaws fans. They are like what's going on behind the scenes with the Outlaws. I think they're like the initial impression of this new investment group and the guys to make the decisions and who they are talking to and whatnot. I'm positive. I'm looking upwards on the Outlaws.
Cool. Maybe I will too then. We'll see. All right. We need to talk a little bit about playoffs though. So we do have playoffs starting this week. This is your Overwatch League Season 2 playoff primer. Before we get started, we're just going to re-clarify some of the rules so that there's no ambiguity going in, and then we can go in and actually have a conversation without having to explain the format during that conversation, which always ends up happening.
Yeah.
So, first, let's talk about the Season 2 playoffs. They're going to consist of the top teams in each division, which is Vancouver's in the Pacific Division, NYXL in the Atlantic Division, and then the following 4 teams in the standings, regardless of division, will make the top 6. Straightforward so far. Makes sense. I do need to snag one thing here because I always forget to do this. I need to do it right now. So this is one of those things when people are like, you should prepare more for your shows.
Trust me, I remember that there's reseeding, okay? I prepared plenty. Don't try to tell me how to show, okay?
So the big one is, and the big implication from last week is that London Spitfire were indeed knocked out of play-in. Or knocked out of top 6 and now are in play-in.
Now are in play-ins.
With Seoul Dynasty at the top. So the 7th through 12 teams, which are London Spitfire and Seoul Dynasty at 7-8, and then Guangzhou, Fusion, Dragons, and Hunters are 9th through 12th. They're going to play for the 7th and 8th seeds in the actual playoffs. Pretty straightforward. Single elimination, first to 4 wins. I do have a clarifying question for anyone who can answer this. It's defined as strictly as best of or first to 4, which doesn't mean best of 7. Does it actually mean first to 4 wins? Or is that just a mistype in Overwatch League rules?
No, first to 4 because you could tie maps, right? And then.
But neither team gets a win if they tie.
Yes.
So we could go.
I think so. Wait, that is a good question. Ooh, but I don't think they did that in the past. Yeah.
Because I went and read the rules again today because I was looking up the rules on Liquipedia.
Mm.
So draws are thrown out. First to 4 means that we could have some long series.
It's a possibility for sure.
So I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Overwatch says it could mean that you could have 9 maps, especially with teams that are close. Just wanted to clarify we got that right. Play-ins, playoffs, and grand finals are all first to 4 wins. So the whole way through from this week's games all the way to the grand finals in Philadelphia are all going to be first to 4 wins. We get 2 weeks of playoffs. So we have play-ins this week, playoffs for 2 weeks, and then a week break, and then grand finals. The play-ins and grand finals are both single elimination as well. So the playoffs themselves are double elimination until we get to the grand finals. Any additional clarifications, things that we might have skipped over, Joe, Yiska, that people need to know about the format?
I don't think so.
All right.
I think as long as we remember that play-ins will reseed going into the semifinals, I think we should be okay.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, that's what we're talking about here. Obviously, again, Vancouver and NYXL already seated in the as division leaders. Shock, Spark, Gladiators, and Reign are the other 4 teams who don't have to play in play-ins.
Can I just bring up one meta point, which is I honestly think being first and second seed is a disadvantage. Because, okay, here it comes, right? You would think that getting the people from the play-ins would make it so that you have an easier time. I don't think that's true. Whoever gets out of the play-ins is probably a monster. Why? Because you have a selection process on that very meta, and only the best teams come out of that. It's like you send like an animal into a niche window where it's like this apex predator has already like adapted to this niche, and now they are trying to figure it out. To be fair, the advantage, of course, being that the top seeded teams have footage on the teams in the play-ins. I don't think that makes up for it though, especially seeing who are the other teams. Like, I'd much rather play, for instance, the Spark than so if I'm, for instance, the Gladiators, I'd much rather play the Spark than anyone that is likely to come out of the play-ins, right? So I personally think that is a pretty big disadvantage. And here's a cool solution. We're going back to Apex style. Have the first and the second seed in a cool format, watch point or whatever, pick their opponents. After the play-ins are done, bit of shit talk, like, okay, we're picking them because they're super easy, or we're picking them because we want to kill them before the grand finals or something, right? Like, ballsy moves are possible. Probably shouldn't do that, but like,
I love that
should
idea.
be a fix.
I don't actually agree though that in this situation playoffs could be a disadvantage. I understand what you're saying, like this natural selection thing, but assuming that the meta doesn't shift majorly, just a little bit of an assumption, you're looking at these teams that are in the top 12 did not, in the last stage, finish in the top 8. Except for Guangzhou. Guangzhou is the only team that I'm afraid of.
Yeah, and that's the problem. You're a top two seed. Guangzhou comes out, they're third best team in the world. The NYXL
but I think that applies to Guangzhou.
Not necessarily to the rest of them.
The rest of them.
I even think London is going to be the same thing.
I think,
and I think the meta is going to change significantly. Yes.
And this also goes, so as far as seeding goes, Guangzhou for the entire season is 9th, meaning that they're going to likely be the higher seed. So it means that they've got to play Seoul. So I think London sneaks in here, right? Because London then has to play either Fusion, Dragons, or Hunters. And I honestly think that they can beat all 3. Assuming, again, no major meta shifts. Hunters, obviously, the biggest wild card, right? I don't know. Like, for me, I just look at this. I look at, you know what? Guangzhou, you got to work a little harder for this one. And then, whatever, Fusion, Dragons, Hunters, duke it out, and then go lose to London.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is Fusion or Dragons lose to London. Then Spitfire has to play NYXL. They clap them, which is already terrible because you maybe have a chance at Spark if you're NYXL, I would say. Or who else is likely? I'd even, honestly, that might be ridiculous, but if I'm Spark, I'm probably much rather picking the Gladiators or even the Rain than I'm picking the Charge, which from the season record doesn't make much sense, just projected in what is the next meta going to be, because as it looks like, there is no 5-man backpack for Erste anymore. That's not going to work in the playoffs. So
yeah. So I don't know. I'm I like the idea that you brought up of doing some manual seeding and opponent choosing. I think it would make for more interesting games, because still, as it currently stands, we're taking entire seasons worth of results to then snapshot to something where I think we can at least we talked about divisional ties, and we talked about languages and all these other factors that kind of persist throughout a team's being successful or not. Meta's largely at the top, right? It has to be. There's not been one factor that has caused bad teams to all of a sudden be amazing and amazing teams to all of a sudden be bad more than meta.
Yeah.
And right now, I think that's the biggest problem that we have with the Overwatch League playoffs is even now, I don't feel like we're getting the best 8 teams. Not even just from the season, but even overall.
Yeah.
It can kind of look like a smattering little skirmish, right? Like reseed everybody however you want or hide the seeds, and there's a very good chance you cannot tell who's the higher seed and who's the lower seed. And when you have a 1 and an 8, you kind of hope that that's kind of apparent, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, honestly, for instance, like a team like the Valiant in aggregate over the season, they're probably a better team than Spitfire this year. They just had the harder division. And that sounds ridiculous because, oh, wait, they got that mark of the Dragon, 07 first stage. Still, I think if they switch spots, London and Valiant is in the play-ins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. Should we talk about some of these specific matches coming up?
Sure.
Let's get in it.
Let's do. So match number 1 is going to be Guangzhou versus Chengdu. We'll let our China scholar and just, we basically push this on you at this point. Joe doesn't actually have this incredible, super duper, Oracle. He does, but he also is like really smart in everything else. I think we just all go, yeah, but he knows China the best. I think we're gonna do it anyway. Guangzhou, Chengdu. Is this something, right now I just, mentioned, and here's you're going to be your answer. Well, we don't know what the meta is going to shape up to be, and that's a big factor, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. I said it for you. You don't have to say it anymore. You don't get to say it anymore.
Okay.
Charge versus Chengdu. Is this something? Is it not as one-sided as it looks?
No, this is pretty one-sided. There's very few worlds that I see that hunters can come out and succeed. Three things that I think the hunters have to do if they want to succeed in the play-ins. They have to come out with their own look. They have to throw curveballs, right? This is their style. They have to play for comfort. They have to find something that they excel at that nobody else is doing and catch people off guard, especially charge. They have worse map records overall across multiple game types. They're just not playing comparatively as well as the charge on almost any game type. I think the only one that's close is control, and that's why I think it's going to kind of set the pace for the entire match. If hunters can come out and win the first control, that sets them up pretty well going forward. But this is a uphill battle in almost every sense of the word. You're going into a new meta, so I think flexibility is very important. That's something that the Charge has showcased all season. You've got Hotbud coming around playing multiple different roles, multiple different heroes, looking really, really good from a season one that looked, let's face it, quite bad. Rio coming in, nice sleeper main tank, playing almost all the main tanks, at least at a mediocre level, at least in a serviceable level. I think that's something to be said. I will agree that there could be a change up in the Hunters starting lineup. You could maybe see Jichirin or Late Young come in to play flex tank, and as Symmetra kind of evolves, we've seen Hunters play quite a bit of Symmetra going back towards the mid-season. Elsa could play Symmetra. There's a possibility, but even with that in mind, I don't see them matching the flexibility, matching just historical precedents in terms of just map win-loss ratios, game type win-loss ratios. Like, this is an uphill battle. The Charger coming in, they have a week ahead of prep. The Hunters didn't even realize that they were going to be in play-ins until like a couple days ago, so this would be a huge upset if Hunters could pull this off, but I don't see it happening. I think this is very much a Charge victory.
Cannot believe this is happening.
Give me percentage. Can you give me percentages,
biased.
by the way? By huge
70-30
Charge? Yeah.
Yes, okay. 70-30 Charge. I it's hard to not give Hunters just a ballpark, Hail Mary chance just because of how they play. They're kind of heavy-handed in that sense, but they don't have much else in their arsenal. Like they're very much a puncher's chance team. Like they could catch the Charge with something they're not expecting and knock them out. That could happen. Is that likely to happen with how well we've seen the Charge play last meta? Probably not. This is a 70-30 game.
Yiska, you look like you're going blind in one eye right now.
Indeed. Welcome at the Scrimbox Cafe. That's a bottle cap.
Oh, okay.
So here at the Scrimbox Cafe, stock is straight, not cafe. The Hunters are actually doing very well. They are the fourth best team in the world right now on this patch.
Really?
Yeah,
that's interesting. Is it for any of the reasons that I've mentioned?
In my estimation, I was like, yeah, Joe. Okay, so Joe thinks like this is ridiculous, and it's like, oh, they don't have an off chance. And in my mind, I'm like laying out the percentages, going like, yeah, okay, so I still think Charge is a favorite, but it's like 65-35. And he's like going, oh my god, the chance in hell, and he goes 70-30. I'm like, okay, bro, like your adjectives there are a little, off. I think 60-40, 65-35. I think Chengdu This might be one of the best matches we are going to have in the playoffs. Play-ins, playoffs.
In the play-ins or the playoffs?
Both. When you combine them postseason. Yeah.
Okay.
Gotta write that one
that's
down.
interesting.
Yiska.
Charge Hunters.
Okay.
Also, I don't know where the whole narrative that the Hunters have just been like complete poop against the Charge all season. Like they played twice. They're 1-1 and 5-4 in maps. Like I don't know where that came from.
Yeah.
You can argue that like week 1 Charge, like that match didn't really count because Charge didn't have Nero. I agree. Like that is something you have to kind of secede and omit. But it's also week 1 for the Hunters. It's also week 1 for every team. It's first, your rookie appearance on stage. There's jitters all over the place. I think that point's a little weak. I think not having Nero is definitely important. I don't know. I don't buy into that narrative at all. I think that's kind of BS.
I hate siding with Yiska on these things. Especially
you think it's a little bit closer?
I do. And there's a few aspects of it. I think that in the past, Hunters have definitely shown up the most when things look the most one-sided. Like it tends to be, there's like this aspect of just like wild card things. I do think that we are seeing a meta shift that does actually favor the Hunters a little bit. That being said, I don't know, Guangzhou.
It's hard to bet against.
You don't go 6-1 in stage 4 and then, kind of like it's clear that they're on the up and up. So I don't know. I honestly put it 60-40 is as far as I want to go with Hunters Charge. But I do think that if Charge win, it's not close. It's meaningful gap. Either Hunters lose or win 4-2, 4-3, or Guangzhou wins 4-0, 4-1. Like I think those are the type of stakes that we're looking at. Fair enough. I got this all written down, by the way, and maybe I'll have time to make a nice little graphic for it. Let's talk about Fusion versus Dragons. Is this one any closer? Yiska.
This is definitely less exciting. I will say that. Like, I think I'm excited for what Fusion used. I mean, they sort of at least showed the ability to have curveballs last playoffs. So maybe we can expect as much. And then the same probably can be said about Shanghai as well.
Yeah.
But my God, these two teams look
like who wins here? Like I think there's no strong leader here, and I don't like either team advancing anyways. I don't see either of these teams doing well in the semifinals and the play-ins. I don't know who wins. There's not a really clear path to victory for either team. Doesn't seem like any of the heroes that we've kind of seen through, high rated ladder clips and maybe some scrim footage, like fits either of these teams very well. I think Yiska's right. I think it's going to come down to kind of pocket picks, allowing Ding or EQO or Carpe like to kind of shine and set them up for success. I don't like either of these teams. It's close, but not in a good way.
The good thing is that Spitfire is likely just going to clap cheeks after that.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. That makes it interesting, though, right? So if the Hunters do pull off an upset, they go against Spitfire.
They would play London, yes.
And then the winner goes against Dynasty.
I don't think does that change anything in your mind?
I mean, if Hunters makes it out against Charge, then Spitfire is doomed, dude. Like, it's over.
Yeah, if they can upset like that and they're playing as hot as you're saying, I guess. But, like, either Philly or Dragons versus Seoul, do you think anybody but Seoul wins those matches?
Wait.
So either Fusion or Dragons, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They both win, right? They both have to play Seoul in this reality. In this reality, where
the
Chengdu
Hunters
advances.
win.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
If Chengdu advances,
No, that also doesn't matter.
Like it doesn't matter. I think Seoul just has a good breadth. They're not the greatest team, but they're better than Fusion and Shanghai, at least from what we've seen in Stage 4, and I think historically this season. I don't think that matters.
I didn't realize I could care less than Fusions against Dragons and then Dynasty against either of those. Whoa. I will have to motivate myself to watch these.
I hope that isn't the case. I hope that they come out. Maybe they can show up with the new meta, play it really well. Maybe they have their own curveball strategy. Again, I think the Hunters are the most chaotic team in the league. That's left in the league. But there's reason to believe that maybe Fusion and Dragons could, play a similar style, if that makes sense. Not in-game style, but kind of meta style. Play to their strengths, play around some of their star players, let them shine, put them in positions to succeed. There's a possibility that one of those teams comes out, claps the other one, goes and plays Seoul in this hypothetical universe where Hunters somehow beats the Charge and beats Seoul. I don't think it's likely, but I don't know. It's weird.
Let's put a nice, beautiful bow on this one.
Okay.
Who are your two teams that walk out in the 7th and 8th seed into playoffs?
Do we have to have them numbered?
I mean, it's going to be
matter?
Dynasty or Spitfire or whoever plays them. So you don't. So kind of.
Okay. I'm gonna take. I'll take, and let me know if I'm doing this right. So the lower seed. I hate reseeding. I only hate reseeding because.
Question is who are the two teams that take the?
Who are your teams advancing from play-ins?
Yeah, who advances to playoffs? Which two teams advance to playoffs?
I understand that, but what is your question about the reseeding?
I'm trying to think like, okay, if Charge, well, I'm a slow boy, okay? You got to bear with me. Charge is the highest. Okay.
It's only a
Charge plays Seoul,
show.
Charge advances. Charge London, I think. Charge at 7th, London at 8th. That's my two teams. Hopefully that's right.
So you say Charge Spitfire. Got it.
Charge wins over Hunters. They play Seoul. They beat Seoul. London advances. Charge beats London. Charge 7th. London 8th. Yes. Hopefully that's right. God, I hope that's right.
Yiska?
No, that's right.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah, that's my bracket too.
So you think Dynasty can beat any team except for Charge? Is that what you were saying earlier?
They probably can beat Fusion and Dragons, yeah. If that happens. If Hunters upset and have to play against Spitfire, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna be no fun then. I'm gonna keep it interesting because Eric can't track this. Just kidding. He can't. He will find a way.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna actually say, I think the Hunters could beat the Charge. So I'm gonna go off of that. Say Hunters beat Charge, then they beat the Spitfire, and then Dynasty wins whoever Fusion Dragons wins. I don't think it matters. So I'm gonna say Dynasty Hunters into the playoffs.
Bold. I like it.
Because, I don't want to agree with you guys. Although, honestly, it's like 55-45 for just like me just saying, whatever, Charge Spitfire. See you guys next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Whatever. Means nothing. I'm just the host, right? Like, what I actually have to say or think about the game doesn't even matter. Yeah. All right. there it is. It's time, actually, believe it or not. We're actually at that point. Got through this one kind of quick.
Pretty painless. Pretty painless.
But, Joe wants to get back to playing that vanilla WoW.
Listen, I'm sitting in queue. You want an update? I'm 7,594th in queue with a 291-minute wait. Okay,
What did you start at when the show started? What was it at?
Like 9K.
9,000. So you've got at least 2.
I got another couple hours before I'm going to be able to play. Okay, right. So I got work to do. I got playoff predictions to make. I got videos to create. It's fine. It's fine. I can play on the weekend. It's no big deal.
Cool. London 7 charge 8.
Charge 8.
Think that can happen.
Yeah,
no, it can.
It would basically be ours, but Charge loses to Spitfire in the qualified portion of the. Yeah. So the seeds are just swapped.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it. All right. Stop yelling at me. Stop yelling at me, chat. Jeez. Bunch of psychos. So, we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. Thanks again to everybody who tuned in for the live show. All 87 of you. Appreciate you. 87.
Not bad. Not bad.
Ooh,
look
nice.
at all of you. It's a party in there. Yes, qualified teams cannot. I don't think the qualified teams play each other. I think we're talking about something different. Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. Big thanks to our patron producers, Battle Crab, Maid, and Peter Y. Thank you so much for your incredible support of the show. Don't forget Tactical Crouch game night for patrons and subs. Twitch.tv/KickedTripod, 4 p.m. Pacific on Saturday. We'll be playing some games, hanging out. It was a great time last time. We went for like about 3 hours, so it's a pretty lengthy game night there. No 5-star iTunes reviews this week, but we did reach 100 iTunes reviews on the US iTunes store. If you are like, guys, I'm not giving you money, I don't blame you. Don't give us money if you don't want to or don't have the money, whatever. But leaving a 5-star iTunes review does mean a ton, helps us get discovered by more people, and yeah, overall is great. So please go ahead and do that. Other than that, shout outs for the week, and where can people find you, Yiska?
Well, for last week, I guess at Upcomer, and then we will see. Also, thank you everyone who retweeted my reaching out tweet. A lot of love there. Was pretty happy to see that. I'm in talks with some people. Hopefully I get a new platform soon. But yeah, otherwise, Twitter as usual.
Sweet. Which is all at Yiska out. Don't worry. I'll do this for you. Anything else that I can translate for viewers. Joe, what about you? Shout outs for the week. Where can people find you?
Yeah, let's get this guy a job. Love what he writes. Obviously, a good friend of mine. Call me biased, but definitely deserves it. So show some love. Go click those ads. All that nonsense. You can find me. You can find me at Volamel on Twitter, Volamel. I also set up my Twitch. I might stream some classic WoW at the wee hours of the morning. So if you're around, I may tweet it out. I may not. I don't know. Come in, say hi. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna go record a couple videos, finish up some playoff previews, and then I got a paladin to level, boys.
All right. Oof. All right.
Really?
Yeah,
as for me,
really.
You can find me everywhere at KickedTripod. Streaming twitch.tv/KickedTripod, twitter.com/KickedTripod, youtube.com/KickedTripod, where you also can find the VODs for this very show. Other than that, not a whole lot going on, though. So, pretty straightforward. All right. That's going to do it for us. Make sure to follow Tactical Crouch at tactical_crouch on Twitter. Join our Discord, discord.me/Yiska out. And I don't know. just don't be a stranger. All right. We're out of here. We'll see you guys next time. Episode 50 coming at you next week.